are United States Marines, the same Marines that have served our country since 1775. This is the story of a year in their lives. Let's start it with Lieutenant General Lewis W. Wolf, Commanding General of the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force in 1966.
Our Marines of World War II in Korea experienced many trying days. The heat and the mosquitoes of the tropics, the snow and the sub-zero weather and temperatures of Korea. Today we find ourselves back in the tropics, among the mosquitoes. And we have today that same dedicated Marine who learned long ago to endure these personal hardships to accomplish his mission.
This is a story of Marines and of strangers in far places a world apart, giving voice to an anguished cry answered by these Marines. It is a story of distinguished achievements. Call it Marine 66. Yes, call it Marine 66. And start it in the Caribbean with Marine Helicopter Squadron 365 moving in from the aircraft carrier Boxer to the areas of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, battered by the savage onslaught of Hurricane Inez. The story of the heroic effort from 2 of the squadron officers.
Major Kermit Andrews, commanding officer of HMM 365. Our first view of the damage caused by Hurricane Inez was the southern tip of Dam Rep. I've seen damage done by hurricanes before, but never in my life had I seen the complete destruction of woods, buildings, everything that was standing. In fact, the southern tip of Dam Rep, one huge area, even the leaves were gone from the trees. We spent the majority of the first 3 days working out of Barahona, delivering food. We did fly into some remote villages in between the clouds, high in the mountains, and deliver food and evacuate injured people. But for the most part, Dam Rep government had taken care of their own injured. On the 4th, when our operations, major part of our operations shifted into Haiti, I don't think any of us were prepared for the terrible conditions that we found in the remote mountain villages there. The people that had been injured during the storm from flying tin were still had absolutely no medical aid. In fact, I saw people with huge cuts, broken limbs, with absolutely no first aid. Dirty rags, if any, were used as bandages. The majority of the cases that we evacuated from the remote towns in Haiti were stretcher cases. Pregnant women who were in terrible shape. In fact, I evacuated one woman who became a mother immediately after touchdown in the city of Jacmel.
Captain John Franco, pilot training officer for HMM 365. On the 4th, 5th, and 6th, where we went to Haiti, I myself worked the area east of Jacmel to Marigot and the little town of Prores. Destruction there was almost total. Ignorance of even the simplest first aid processes hampered our efforts. The squadron flew about 450 hours in these 6 days in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and everyone was exhausted at the completion of it. But I believe one remark made it worth all the effort. The lady from the Dominican Republic told us, "We used to say and mean, Yankee, go home. Now we can say and mean, welcome, Yankee."
Welcome, Yankee. The Marines in Vietnam hear much the same words day after day in village after village, where the diplomats in dungarees let civic action demonstrate conclusively that Americans care. These acts of friendship and understanding have their beginnings a very long way off in the villages and cities of the United States, where other Marines, members of the Organized Reserve, which last year celebrated its 50th anniversary, help gather the funds through which the CARE organization is able to provide these vitally needed goods and services. 1966 was a year of new beginnings. This March in the Sun had its beginning 10,000 miles away at Camp Pendleton, California, where the 5th Marine Division came back into being for the first time since World War II. After a few weeks of intensive training, the first increment of the division, the 26th Marines, received the word. It would soon be on its way to Vietnam to support our total military effort. For the men of the regiment, it was a real shot in the arm. Embarkation was an old, familiar process for some of the men. For others, it was another first. They and their sea bags loading on for the long voyage that would cross the international date line aboard the helicopter carrier that would take them into their first action. Finally, Vietnam and the choppers that had ridden with them on the Iwo Jima put the 26th Marines ashore as a special landing force, a new concept in Marine operations that was to prove dramatically effective. The 5th Marine Division was back in action. Major contact came in a pre-dawn attack by a battalion of regular North Vietnamese troops against a well-prepared Marine position. Dawn showed the enemy had made a costly error. At least 65 of their well-armed and equipped troops were found dead as the patrols moved out. Many others lay wounded on the field of battle, abandoned by their fleeing comrades. Our Navy corpsmen gave them aid. The men of the 5th Marine Division had acquitted themselves with valor and distinction. For the first time since World War II, Marine 66 included combat artists. One of the first to pack his paintbrushes and pistol, Marine Reserve Captain John Dyer of Boston.
I think this country over here is a beautiful country. It's an inspiration to anyone with any sort of an artistic eye. My one feeling is that I'd like to come back to this country someday when I don't have to wear a 45 on my hip. Kids out there are all gathered around here, and they're all trying to see what I'm doing, and they're really not upsetting my work at all. As a matter of fact, I get quite a kick out of the way that they seem so interested in it. Usually, the kids try to pose when you try to take a picture of them, you know. Have you ever seen the way that the women will shy away from a picture, and the men and the younger children seem to just put themselves out and pose? You can never... It's a hard thing to get them in a natural position, because the minute they see the camera, they sort of freeze up.
At every turn in Vietnam, something demands the attention of the combat artists. But even more dramatic and more demanding, the terrible personal plight of the people of this war-torn country. The Hoa Can Children's Hospital is just one example of the vast civic action effort through which thousands of Americans, military and civilian, are striving to help the people of another nation achieve security and independence. The story of Hoa Can is best told by the doctor who directs it, Lieutenant Commander John A. Cornapaka.
Last November, 1965, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, came into this area near Walk-On. They immediately started on a MedCap program, Medical Civil Affairs program, where the doctor, foreman, would go out daily to the various refugee villages, schools, and orphanages to have and hold sick call for the children and also the older people out there. This was very successful and even got up to the point where they were treating 12 to 14,000 a month. However, there was one problem in that when medications were given to these children, we never knew whether they were given the medications by their parents or whether they were given proper treatment as we had prescribed and explained to their parents. Therefore, the two doctors who were here at the time, Dr. Wilkerson and Dr. Shahady, decided to try and build their own small pediatric clinic in order to better care for these children. Last December, with the help of 7th Engineers, one small section with a tent was built which contained 11 beds. The children were soon admitted to the hospital. The first one was admitted on December 26th. With proper care, medications, and good food, the children who were coming in very ill, almost near death, were being returned home in a very healthy and happy state. The parents soon realized what we were here for, and they began bringing more and more children to our gate and to our hospital.
So, in '66, we are winning the civic action. And in every sector, our forces piled up a commanding record in the military action. The year and the combat climaxed with the two major operations fought in this rugged terrain just south of the demilitarized zone that separates North and South Vietnam. Operations Hastings and Prairie. Their smashing success demolished the enemy plan to move troops into South Vietnam through the DMZ. Hastings was initiated by Major General Lowell M. English. Prairie was carried on by Major General Wood B. Kyle. General English describes the early action.
Back in May, it became evident that the North Vietnamese were building up in this area to the south of the DMZ. We believe that there are as many as 3 regiments in this area, and as a result, we have engaged in an operation along with the 1st ARVN Division in this area, with the ARVN Airborne in this area, and with the Marine Task Force Delta in this area. On the 15th of this month, we started Operations Hastings by inserting 2 battalions in this general area. We had reason to believe that there was a division command post in this area, and our purpose was to find it and to destroy it.
Just how well the Marines reacted as Operation Hastings developed is described by the briefing officer, Major Donald Book.
During the period 1-15 July, 18 reconnaissance teams were inserted into the area. 17 of these teams made contact with North Vietnamese forces. This reconnaissance effort established that a large number of well-disciplined, well-equipped, well-trained North Vietnamese units were in the area and had developed a major trail network as an infiltration route. General Kyle directed CG, Task Force Delta, to attack initially with 2 infantry battalions, retaining 1 battalion in reserve at Dong Ha. Thereafter, as the reserve battalion was committed, an additional battalion would be moved north from Da Nang to reconstitute the reserve. Following this pattern of operations, Task Force Delta grew from the initial 3 infantry battalions to a total of 7, including the Special Landing Force of the 7th Fleet. The movement of units north was accomplished primarily by Marine Corps KC-130 aircraft. Most of the supplies were also moved from Da Nang to Dong Ha by these same aircraft. The movement of units from Dong Ha into the field and the logistic support of units in the field was primarily by the 2 helicopter groups of the 1st Marine Air Wing. Task Force Delta's concept was to place blocking forces across the major infiltration trails to prevent movement into and out of the combat area, and then commence searching for the enemy forces. At 0830 on D-Day, 15 July, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines landed in the Songyang Valley by helicopter. Followed at 10 minutes by 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines landing at the mouth of the valley. No fire was encountered during the initial landing. However, by mid-afternoon, fire was being received from 3 sides by the 3rd Battalion. Kilo Company had moved into a blocking position to the south, and by nightfall was under heavy attack from all sides. Heavy fighting was to be encountered by all units at one time or another throughout the area for the next 9 days. It became evident that a major part of the 324B Division was in Zone B.
During all of the action in Operations Hastings and Prairie, Marine combat photographers and Marine combat reporters were in the thick of the fight. All of their reporting was spectacular, both in the air and on the ground. One of the most dramatic incidents in Operation Hastings occurred on July 25th, when Lima Company, 3rd Marines, fought its way to the support of India Company, trapped on a mountaintop by superior enemy forces. The action was photographed by Gunnery Sergeant J.J. Kozakowski and Lance Corporal N.B. Falls. Gunnery Sergeant Carl Hilstrom was there with his tape recorder, but his own voice was often drowned out by the fury of the fight.
Receiving sporadic small arms fire. That was close. We're still continuing to clear the landing zone, so that larger helicopters might come in.
Let's go, engineer!
There's a helicopter picking up medevac, lifting out a wounded Marine. Engineers are five charges last the remaining trees that are required to be cleared before the landing zone is adequate for our helicopters to land. Momentarily. A few moments ago, it was cleared enough to allow 2 helicopters, one at a time, of course, to come in, and they flew up with some wounded Marines.
Marine Huey helicopters coming in again. This time they're on our right side. We're on a hilltop here. It's surrounded by drop-offs all around.
At 1200 on 3 August, Operation Hastings was terminated and Operation Prairie commenced.
There was a different name for the new phase of the battle to control the real estate south of the demilitarized zone, but for the Marines, the same all-out action continued. They took casualties, but they demonstrated positively that they were more than a match for the enemy.
By 13 August, it had become evident that the enemy was again moving forces into the area. The 4th Marines established a forward CP at Dong Ha, and additional forces were committed to the area. Operation Prairie was launched as a reconnaissance and force operation. While in Hastings, it was not unusual for elements of 4 or 5 battalions to be heavily engaged at one time. On only a few occasions have more than one battalion been engaged in heavy contact at the same time during Prairie. However, some of the most violent fighting of the war has taken place during this operation. Most of the heavy contact has occurred in the rock pile and content areas. On numerous occasions, both gun and flame tanks have been utilized, as well as 106mm recoilless rifles, naval gunfire, and flamethrowers, in addition to the other normal supporting arms.
No matter what the supporting arms, the basic element in our success was the individual fighting man. With his calm confidence, his understanding of our mission in Vietnam, and his ability to adapt to the fast-moving circumstances of combat. Staff Sergeant Ken Sanders caught this on his tape recorder as acting platoon leader Staff Sergeant Jimmy Little briefed him on a company-sized patrol mission led by Captain Robert Larson. Here's Sergeant Little.
To start with, we moved down in column, platoon in column, down across the river to Highway 9. Once we reach Highway 9, we will make a left, go down 9 about 700 meters to a trail that cuts up in a canopy where the 3rd Platoon had made contact yesterday. From there, we will use this trail, working out the trail on around, hoping to come back up on the top of the ridge line at about 1,500 meters from here. From here, we'll conduct a sweep through the area where the heaviest contact was made yesterday to clear out any possible VC that are in there, and to search for bodies and weapons. From there, we'll work on down the ridge line, reach Highway 9 to our right, and then come back into the base camp.
We have begun movement down the trail. We encountered the Viet Cong on a few minutes ago. There is a good possibility that the North Vietnamese communists have set an ambush for us. We'll find out if there's an ambush in that area, perhaps very soon.
Machine guns, get up here. This is 2, over. This is 2, responded 3 VC. They fired, we returned fire, dropped in a couple M79s and advanced down the trail by fire. However, now we came into another complex of holes. We're checking them out right now, over.
Their individual actions led to final conclusive success. General Kyle summarized its importance.
Timely, effective action by U.S. and Republic of Vietnam units delivered a crushing defeat to the enemy and shattered his hopes for a quick and impressive victory. Hastings and its successor Prairie stand as notable achievements in our battle against communist aggression from North Vietnam.
Notable achievements and uncommon valor. Uncommon valor in support of a just and worthy cause, which the President of the United States defined when he presented the Medal of Honor to Sergeant Robert E. O'Malley.
I can think of only one gift sufficient to honor men like this. We can assure this man, and we can assure every man who wears our uniform, that their cause is a good cause, that the principles they stand for are sound principles, that the battle they are fighting deserves their bravery. to back a commitment honorably given, that is a good cause. To shield a nation from aggression, that is a good cause. To defend men against coercion and intimidation, that is a good cause. To prove that terror and aggression simply will not work, that is a good cause.
Then are Marines 66, the same gallant, dedicated men serving their country as they have since 1775 and will until the end of time.